Hello, this is Joel Blackford with Beth Hassan Sabbath Fellowship at 1631 Ford Parkway in St. Paul, Minnesota, bringing you another video. This time it's going to be with Keith Knutson as he explains economic sine waves over the last 100 years. Here you go, Keith.
Shalom, this is Keith. I'm presenting called a Daniel Ferrer DTF 100-year stock market cycle chart. I had gotten this off of the internet when I was looking at stock market cycles, and I saw that this one was quite significant since it showed some significant 4-year sine waves at very significant times. And based on Leviticus 25, the Shemitahs, versus the red lines, that is empirical data that's based on 16 market cycles over a 100-year period. So that's what the markets actually did, and the green lines going above that I added, and the yellow lines below I added. The green lines above, they show Shemitah based on another Shemitah chart that was done by Jonathan Kahn, and those show 2001. That's when it slid down, and those, according to this chart, actually show peaks. The ones that I did in the yellow are I had based it on Israel becoming a nation in 1948, which in Leviticus 25 it says that when you enter the land, that is to be a Shemitah, and the nation of Israel was declared that by the nations of the world in 1948. So that's when it's based on, going backwards and forwards on this chart on the yellow. And basically, for the most part, that is on a dip on the chart every 7 years when there's to be no manufacturing or agriculture, that type of thing. That's the year of rest. And every 7 years going backwards, it follows the same, including 1917. And the first slight sine wave shows from 1917 to 1921, which is a 4-year cycle. That's not a real perfect cycle. The next nearly perfect cycle, 4-year cycle, is from 1945 to 1949. And that is when Israel became a nation, was declared a nation in 1948. The next 4-year sine wave is from 1965 to 1969. And that is when Jerusalem went back to Israel in 1967. Another interesting thing about these charts is that, this chart, is that it shows the negative swing of the 4-year cycle, which is a 2-year period, from 47 to 49. That happened to be during the second tetrad, red moons. And the third tetrad just happens to be on the bottom swing of the 4-year cycle from 65 to 69, when Jerusalem went back to Israel. This chart I did quite a few years ago, probably 5 years ago, and so things may have changed considerably. I do believe there should be, according to the way that these are working, I think there should be another 4-year sine wave sometime soon, and there will be a downslide of 2 years if that's the case. Let's see. The Belfort Accord, that was at the very start of the very first sine wave, and I don't know if that sine wave has the red moons attached or not. I didn't check into that. I find it interesting, though, that on the 1929 stock market so-called crash, that's at a peak in actuality, and it's at a dip in 1934 according to the yellow Shemitah cycle. So the actual crash would have been when it crashed all the way down, which would be 33 to 34. 1929, it had just started to go down. I believe a crash is when it actually hits the bottom. The same with 2001, that is actually at a peak, and it doesn't go down until after that.
So Keith, what do you think is going to happen in the area that you didn't cover in here from 2002 through 2008? Jonathan Kahn said on the Elul 29 of 2008 that the stock market dropped X amount of points, and then, but it also did that in 2001. So where should we expect the stock market to go based on sine waves?
Not knowing the stock market, I really can't say, but I do believe there's going to be another 4-year cycle here somewhere. And I know some very significant things happened when President Trump was elected, him being 70 years, 7 months, 7 days old on the Hebrew month of Chesban, which is the 8th month on the biblical Hebrew calendar, but it's actually 7 months after 7 days before Passover of that year. So it's the seventh 7 months after that time in the year 5777 on the 7th day. It was the 8th day on the Gregorian calendar. So I believe that Trump was actually elected for the sake of Israel, hopefully for the United States too. But
this video isn't about denigrating Donald Trump or elevating him. It's about the fact that he's our president right now, and there probably will be another president after him. The main thing is he was born on the sign of a blood moon. Now, the eclipse that occurred was over Jerusalem, not New York City where he was born, but it's interesting on the day he was born in 1946 that there was a blood moon eclipse, and that he is a Trump of the end times. But there isn't really anything in the sine waves that would attribute anything to Donald Trump's presidency.
well, this chart I had gotten offline only goes up to 2000, and I would like to get the rest of it to up till today to
So you'll
see.
come back and present to us
I
again when you get
will,
more
yeah.
information. Okay, well that's good.
And that's
Is
my
that it
2
then?
cents. Yep.
Okay, so bottom line is that you see these economic sine waves, and they don't necessarily match up with what man has felt was, the Great Depression was 1929. It really occurred about 4 years later, 5 years. 1934 was the down point, 33, 34. And then other things, when not Donald Trump, but Jonathan Kahn was attributing such a great fall in 2001 and 2008, maybe not, it wasn't as big of a fall. I guess I'm saying that I think there will be a fall at some point in time, and I see Trump agitating against the Chinese right now as of yesterday and other things like that. But I don't think you can say it fits into the sine waves, and we may be in a period where these sine waves matched up beautifully with what was going on economically, but we may be in the Messianic time frame, which may not agree with sine waves, or they might be hyper volatile, so to speak. Would that be possible?
Yeah, and I mean there is something very definite about sine waves, these sine waves, because they only occur over a 100-year period. It's very in a cycle like that based on the markets. This is empirical data. It's amazing that it would happen that way.
So the reason why I reached out to Keith was that I had read a report that said the cycles seemed to be about 7 to 11 years. And you said, no, I can actually prove 7-year cycles. And there it is in the sine waves, which is very interesting. So it's there, and I'm saying that it's almost natural that these things would occur, that God built the Shemitah into our cycles, that things are going to go up and go down, and go up and go down based on sine waves, which is more, it's God. And so we don't know where we're going forward from this, but we know that there might be hypervolatility, and maybe this day and age of standard sine waves is over. Maybe. Okay. Be blessed. Thank you. Good night.